What did I even volunteer myself to? Pretty much we've texted my exes and asked them a bunch of questions about the nature of why the relationship ended. Right. This could be one of the dumbest things I've ever done, but here we go. I'm Sophie. I'm a writer at Channel Void. I can't say his name, can I? No. This person and I had a really fun relationship. He was very doting, and I think maybe a little bit taken aback by how quickly he developed feelings for me, and I don't think I necessarily went with him in that space. So we kind of still friends now, which is really nice. So I think it was probably, and potentially the amount that I partied, he probably didn't like, but we'll see. Oh Jesus, here we go. Oh my God, it's really nice. He said, well, I don't think they ever really started. I was immediately infatuated with you, which I'm guessing turned you off. It was hard for me to hide my admiration, so in saying that, I guess it was one-sided, which is why I think it never really kicked off. Which is it's not that it turned me off, it's that I actually couldn't keep up with that, I couldn't meet him there, you know? It's hard to say, since it was so short-lived, and during the so-called honeymoon phase, I didn't see any flaws. Everyone in every relationship have different wants and needs, so it would be pretty stubborn of me to suggest anything. He said, I got the vibe that you didn't want me to meet any of your friends. Maybe I was misreading the situation, but one particular time we were around each other, you were pretty reluctant to introduce me to them. In saying that, you were very clear of your feelings towards me, which all in all was probably the best way someone's dealt with that particular situation in my past relationships. Keep being you, mate. I'm surprised about the friends thing, because I definitely introduced him to my friends. It's so much better than I expected. I'm grateful to have known him and have had time and interaction spent with him for sure. I don't really know what I want to tell him now. I guess I'd be happy to see him if I saw him. He just needs to keep doing him. I started seeing this person at the beginning of COVID. I met him at a party and we're both pretty off our heads. So it was kind of a weird way to meet someone. The next week he was coming over for dinner, and then suddenly he was living at my house. I don't know, I slipped into this weird wife role, and he was my husband, and he'd go off and work because he still had a job. I didn't have a job at the time because of COVID. And I was making him breakfast every morning at 4 a.m. and then going back to sleep. My whole life was just revolved around him coming home and going to work. It was quite toxic by the end of it, I would say. But it was really nice to have someone to kind of go through that tough time with, I think. In my perspective, I believe things didn't continue because I was unable to provide that emotional support that I now know a lot of people need for reassurance and life in general, and that type of personality that allows people to easily open up. The relationship definitely taught me a lot, and although it was tough at the start with things like self-doubt and heartbreak, I feel like I've learned the hard way. I'm not only making it easier for my friends and lovers to open up to me about mental problems. That's really cool. That's really, really fucking cool to read. And I've definitely never heard that from him, so that's pretty cool. He said, due to the length of the relationship, I didn't really get a chance to see anything that you needed to work on at all. Sorry if that's no help. It's not help. The only real thing that turned me off in the whole way that we ended was that I almost had zero idea about any of the things going on inside the mind of the other person, and I only really knew about them in the process of us ending. I now understand these mental issues are definitely not a small issue or thing to deal with, and maybe there was an attempt to reach out to me about it before ending, but I did struggle to see a real issue, and they surprised me that they were brought up while we were ending, but I also know that I'm not the easiest person to open up to. Whoa. I actually did have, some understanding that he felt like that, I think it was a big growth lesson for both of us though, like communicating openly, in that we didn't tend to say how we were feeling with ease openly. I think if this text has taught me anything about the way that I am in romantic relationships, it's that I have a tendency to try to hide things because I think it's going to hurt people, and then it ends up hurting them more when it all just combusts and like avalanches out. I was literally freshly 18 when I dated this person, so it was a little bit, I don't know, I was just making things up. I had no idea how to be in a relationship. I'm 22 now, so this was 4 years ago. I'm still friends with this person, and we've never had any kind of in-depth conversation about the relationship, so I'm excited to see, I guess, what comes out in this. Sorry, it's so funny in a good way. Okay, he said, "This is a question I ask myself from time to time about the past. Every relationship is unique, no matter the depth or length, and is dealt with accordingly in relation to the time that it occurs. So as cliche as this may sound, I would have to say that timing was the end of ours. Neither of us were at peace with ourselves, and the environment outside of us was fairly toxic and against us at the time." That is really true. There was some external factors that people that were involved that really did not want us to be together either. I was so afraid that I was going to be like judged or like outcast from the social groups, and that was a massive thing for me at age 18. And he said, "I'm not one to give advice to others and what they may need to work on, as I am no shining example of success myself, but in the unique situation that was at hand, I do feel as though I could have been trusted more than I was. It is understandable why you may not have, as past experiences may have led you to believe others untrustworthy, so I do understand and accept that." I pretty much accused him of cheating on me, and I definitely, it doesn't really matter if he did or not now. Whatever. And he said, "Well, to be honest, no habits or habitual behaviours had surfaced that were a turn-off, so to speak. I adored you and the short time that we shared. All I could really say is that letting something happen and seeing what happens is part of the beauty in any relationship. I do understand why you may not have done this at the time, as there were many things against that formation. To put it simply, maybe go with the flow and don't overthink it." And that is quite sage advice and something that I'm consistently trying to do. I knew that he was definitely like frustrated with some of my inability to surface how I was feeling. I was very avoidant in that relationship. I think the only times I would ever speak about my feelings in that relationship was when I was drinking or like had been when we were out together. But it's really cool that he's been able to see past those things and I guess know that there was always like potential there and kind of focus on that rather than my young stupidity. Like, I'm kind of starting to understand that my biggest struggle in relationships is my inability to communicate, like my fear of communicating. Not equipped to deal with any kind of confrontation, and I really want to make sure that, for the sake of people that I'm with and for my own sake, that I really focus on being true to myself and showing integrity to my emotions. I think it's really important. But everything was so much better than I could have expected. I'm just really glad for it to be over, to be honest. To be honest, like all of these responses have actually rattled me at how gentle and like kind and actually like not negative at all in the ways that I thought they would be. I thought they'd be super scathing. I think if this process has taught me anything, it is that often you create stories that aren't real in your mind, and the only thing standing between you and the truth is a few questions. And if the worst case is what you've already created, hearing that confirmed isn't really going to shatter your world. You encounter people for a reason, and each of these people taught me such, they might have been minuscule, they might have been massive. Like, one of the guys taught me how to cook poached eggs, And I've taken that with me for the rest of my life.